She's asked. I think she said email too.
Not gonna go when you come back.
You'll hear it. You'll hear it.
Oh my gosh. You can't be on the line with anybody else. What is wrong with you? Because then she says something. You gotta get her to do something. I don't want to do Wait, where's the third judge?
Sir?
Oh, you're over there? Okay. All right. Are we good? All right. All right, let's get started if we can, please. Thank you.
You said it was an email?
Yes. I'm just.
Is there a reason we're not doing speech draw?
Oh, did you first speak it up? I just asked and they said.
Oh no, then let's do that.
Okay.
Are you using this?
No, we did.
No, mine's a bit.
Right? Or is doctors?
Quarters.
Ask consent. That should be fine. Oh, yeah, they're good. Nadia, you did?
Give me 1 sec.
Gordon?
Yep.
Lunch. The advantages and stability for security element are on his defensive but expansive US present provokes prolific escalatory war. Robinson 416. Security element will support ideas and I are even to investigate ability will not only contain offensive security can be perceived as threatening the other side will take countermeasures of vicious act will lead to war. Soviets mistook NATO exercise leading to near catastrophe Iran would want to do for blocking attack. There's no evidence Iran has a different motive and plenty of reason for Iran to fear attack. President Tree stated all options are on the table. Involving use discussed seriously cyber attack stages and assassinated scientists, but Iran responds rationally. Its actions are seen as further aggression. Iran has launched drones. Iran doesn't want a war, but the cycle of violence can easily escalate. And Prolif triggers a cascade of arms raising extinction, Libby 22. If Iran gets nukes Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, and others will arm a world whenever absent decisions have made intercontinental systems to destabilizing launch on warning in the hands of technically challenged militaries that include air settlements escalating to nuclear war and lose nukes. And independently timed is high now, only withdrawals of miscalculation and quick escalation, London Hall 419. Israel's retaliatory attack came despite Biden's warnings. Their was only tipped off at the last minute. Missiles going to cause Americans on harm, unprecedented, unrunning attack to derive elements of U.S. sovereignty and Gaza the Middle East on the brink, basically devastating full conflict. Now is the time to defuse and de-escalate U.S. troops. Heavy efforts of attack from Iranian parts and U.S. also targeting Americans or real goods are much more when it comes to where does the conflict end. World will be a major war. We are in charge of territory. This is a third unprecedented strike. And second, adventurous, unique explosive expansive presence produces threat to justify itself. Grand journey path dependencies of policy and nurture. Pillar Red 2020. Presence is self-perpetuating bureaucratic inertia justified in terms of force protection to circular as long as forces available to make us find nails and American presence also for law. U.S. involved with self-ability to be drawn into strategically and significant decrease in stability as a result of involvement in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen requires significant drawdown multiple royalty precluding regional domination. U.S. signal clearly its commitment to significantly reducing its military presence. Otherwise, countries will be sent out incentivized to destabilize to prevent drawdown. U.S. cannot wait must engage with partners to discuss time off for withdrawal and continuing relationship 5 to 10 years of diplomatic engagements for new regional security. And distrust their current presence creates a breach of sculpture militarism and guarantees endless war. Black and Quarter 21. Coarsening politics, extended xenophobic populism, support for Trump, permanent wars becoming institutionalized, UPSI sort of assassination, exacerbated inequality, and social strength campaigns, further regulatory and effective emergency in place, executive expense of Congress, and makes military over dominant areas debate revolving towards an enable or manifestation of policy militarization to come home, and there was surveillance and police, racial divide, Trump, complaining terrorism, immigration, and Islam, and Middle East war goes global and nuclear, please, in 2020. Iran by revenge, Middle East conflicts violent to World War III, strikes with terror, terror, series, trying in Russia, China, ships, and global one, carry out naval drill, build Russia, Iran, and Russia, they could become involved in war, troops are deployed in northern Syria, making its actual unpredictable U.S., China, Russia, and Israel, all moves with better expansion, hypersonic to damage nuclear chain. point. And independently, the U.S. is dangerously overshot shots like President prevents counteraggression from China and fuels political backlash to make total withdrawal inevitable. Option 22. Main strategic areas been outlined serving Berlin in the Middle East, oil containing Iran, nukes, countering terrorists, can be through diplomacy, surgical operations, isolations, comeback ones, schools in Arkansas, and Afghanistan, drug composition, trying operation, outer reach, profitable from essential commitments in Europe and East Asia, contemplating withdrawing from NATO and Japan, and Europe and Asia withdrawal with unsettled allies and bold adversaries, fighting operations that's fine, even as America ends global guardian to remain great power, stabilizing Europe and Asia, catalyst for collective action, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, making clear that anything that's out of the present Europe is needed to Kremlin, American troops will not take care from Europe, will stretching jobs will be Chinese short of stability and shared leadership, and it's not just a question of repositioning resources about limited bandwidth and divided focus. Logan 2-6. Middle East regularly such option out of the Belly contrasts to Ukraine by 5 to 6 already offshore quarters. Ukraine militia killed 3 troops in Jordan. Biden is facing substantial escalation at the expense of every other age. The administration dropped out Ukraine like a hot rock immediately shifted its attention its arms away. Middle East absorb arms attention diplomatic cover world defined core preferences in the Middle East provides with 1-2% of world GDP no state can protect power outside the region. And everyone knows that ever expanding U.S. presence is unsustainable. The world is preparing for complete abandonment. Holy 23. Leaders with pulling out, talking out, not decided with Biden widespread perception that withdrawal is in the works. Afghanistan fits a widely believed narrative that the U.S. is abandoning trade to pivot to Asia, America, first order rhetoric, reality, U.S. is actually increasing its footprint. And China and Russia are our largest threats, absent incredible deterrent, catastrophic miscalculations, inevitable. Gauge 23. The U.S. confronts greater threats than ever. Before allied attack against Russia, China, no go around a nuclear arsenal could double its own advance and demand to go hard response. The country cannot provide one Xi and Putin convinced the U.S. could enter irreversible con evident China and Russia's military strength and aggressiveness. Many leaders made major miscalculations. Seem like when making bigger Washington, they would change calculus, reduce change to disaster. U.S. finds itself incapable of strength necessary to dissuade them to deterrent depends on sovereignty and constancy, dysfunction made around American power, erratic and unreliable, unbending response to our place nature respects with catastrophic effects. And great power war turns every other scenario and causes extinction. Player 23. Nukes proliferate. Also, World War III are high. Great power going to make races to develop weapons. Existential catastrophe could escalate dramatically with nuclear weapons. AWs on a president scale. Nuke tensions, accelerate climate change, undermine international institutions, China and U.S. relations, deteriorate protection policies, reduce interdependence, invasion, Ukraine, risk nuclear war, tensions, make IR, biotech, medical safety, great power relations, influence collective action, and excellent plan. The United States ought to substantially reduce the military presence in the area of responsibility of Central Command in the West Asian and African region. Smaller presence, strengthen deterrence, and efforts of veterans without completely abandoning the region. McBride 23. Rather than reassurance, President could so preserve enabling odds, labor violations, criminal conduct violations, already jeopardize diplomatic relations, and undecided president denied goals of war obstacles, avoid intervention, more honest posture, underwrite greater restraint, beginning debating advocates call for abandonment, but drawback will allow realignment to match threats, and reducing presence alone solves the advantage, but would also lead to a shift to distributed basing. Joyce and Walter 21. And it says goes for right-sizing presence, fewer forces, enhanced deterrence, U.S. official strength, need to embrace spirit basing, allow for consolidation, dispersal, use all the way south, outer world, wings alive with new operational conflicts, reducing regional presence, and that solves all neg offense. Distributed basing makes the most of reduced force. Walter 21. Present need not be permanent instead of major operating bases rates to distributed basing and constellation, small based to host radiation shift installation deemed non-essential for auto war return, but is host nations, but should be reduced reposition to come for contingency limited, without intelligence or counter terror remain, and shifting from our currently aggressive posture to distributed basing necessitates a smaller footprint. Joyce and Blankenship 21. Dispersed basing would make it force and difficult to find cost domain and now require distributed logistics network, DPD ties with partners, large and build a large coalition, increase operation of crisis access to facilities in more places, but not more basic, better served by fewer physically armed facilities rather than huge concentration of flexible arrangement with smaller presence to search out smaller presence and reduce the cost of funds and manpower. And the excellent framework. This narrative maximizes expectable being for you chose the partial specific public actors result in infinity to expand self-value. Green 2015. You chose misjudgment going out to try to identify based on different results to a common metric usual for reality of such a decision makers regard everything injury you will matter for everybody else. The answer is quality contribution experience. You say why do you care? You come down to the quality of change. Say what to go to work. Say I need money and a place to live to sleep. It's cold to the bad and concern for resulting public disagreements to based on our experience. And skip the next card. Biological death is ontologically bad. Powers in 2003. Death is the objective of evil. Ontological choice is subject invented better or worse. Life rejection of blood cannot be warranted. The president of radical ontological liberty cannot be given away objectively. And using government as heroes to competitor having really forced to truly investigate political structure, search for ways to improve instead of using abstract solutions to concrete impacts. Not 2013. Resistant and limited to rejection struggles within government rationalizing, cleaning, transforming, and question over simplification, nurtures radical skepticism, abstract solutions, political problems, political conflicts, diagnosis, political engagement, we're not waiting the evolution, truth, power, by playing with what our cards are available, and would require electricity on the consequence of political choices. I didn't read the second green card. I'm ready for Krauss. Wait, sorry, let me just grab the clock. Okay, I'm good.
Right sizing, what does it mean? How does what do bases look like post-plan?
Yeah, that's explained really well under our plan section. Just to be clear, distributed basing is not a field independent of a plan, nor is it necessary to solve any of the affirmative advantages. But we argue that it's better for a few reasons. One is that it talks about fewer smaller bases that are...
So in a scenario of a conflict, could the U.S. re-intervene in those bases to protect allies?
First of all, we allow for the ability to surge, but we would argue based on our security...
So the plan does allow for the ability to surge.
But we would argue that based on our security dilemma argument that there'd be no need to surge post-plan because we solve for the root cause of conflict since U.S. military presence is what's provoking nations into a conflict.
Your evidence says that Israel, etc., would be reassured by the plan's right-sizing. How does that process happen?
What do you mean?
Like, how does the plan reassure allies like Israel?
Oh, well, we would argue that distributed basing is like better for our allies for a number of reasons. Like, I can explain that if you want.
That's what the question was.
Okay, cool. So distributed basing basically has it so that we have fewer bases, and there would be more distributed throughout the region. Because if we get rid of bases and we make the remaining bases smaller,
so we keep remaining bases in our ally, like with our allies.
not all of them, obviously. The point is that we
which allies do we not keep bases with?
Yeah, so we talk about specifically how we would reduce our military presence within the area of responsibility of CENTCOM. You can read normal means evidence for what you think that would look like.
Sure. The Latin Hall evidence says that Israel's attack came despite Biden's warnings. If that is true and Israel views Iran as an existential threat, why would they back down post-plan?
Yeah, our Latin Hall card is really good on this. It specifically argues that Israel is basically we can't bring them in with any leverage that we have. So having a military presence there that we can condition doesn't do anything to stop Israel because Israel.
Okay, wait. That's not reverse causal. That just means we can't solve it now. Why does the plan change that?
B is that our Latin Hall card is really good on this. Specifically at the end, it talks about how the fact is that there's only the chance of a major nuclear war breaking out. And
it says the U.S. has done nothing to stop, and U.S. leverage does nothing to stop Israel. If that is true, how can the plan possibly stop Israel from attacking
So the
Iran?
point is that U.S. leverage, i.e. our military presence in one, is not doing anything to restrain Israel.
I understand that. That doesn't mean the plan resolves that.
The solvency argument that I'm making is at the bottom of the card, not the top of the card, in which it argues that the only scenario for great power drawn and this conflict going nuclear is if U.S. troops are in the region.
Israel has. Okay, so the scenario is that Middle East war does not go nuclear absent intervention from other great powers.
Absent intervention from the U.S. specifically.
Wait, why? Israel has nukes themselves.
But yeah, that's explained really well though in our Latin Hall 419 card, in which it talks about how conflict would remain contained because Iran obviously doesn't have nuclear weapons in the status quo.
Wait, where does it say a conflict will be contained?
Yeah, the Latin Hall card is really good on this. It specifically
Why does
talks
Iran
about
need
how
nukes if Israel has the nukes? Like, you only need one country to have nukes to have a nuclear.
Yeah, but the war won't go nuclear if they don't have it. They don't fear a nuclear strike. It'll remain conventional as proven by like centuries of conflict. A. B is that our card is really specific in talking about how the concern becomes only concrete.
What is aggressive about our current posture?
That it's super over-sprawling and large and making Iran mad.
Okay, I'll send the doc. It's one framing case.
Cool. I'll let you know when I get it. Cool, I'm good.
Is everyone good? Settler femicide is a structural attack against democracy, the elimination of native life, and the dispossession of land. This dispossession is borne by living dead native women who are rendered structural because they signify the possibility of native future. Simpson, 16 neoliberal governments require side relations to therefore fix their laws rather than care citizens best to bodies are chiefly and only one were attainable because they're both AD bodies and AD women's bodies saved by land reproducing into life and other political orders. They proposed bodies to the settler island land because she was magically extracted from AD women disappearance because this dispossession is dispossessed borne by her brows and native women their bodies have been arrived less all big bases that represent indigenous governance. They suffer distortion of the lives shorted their power poor less educated sicker and disappeared language should not be the solution since historical bounds of colonialism is ongoing. This is the structure and logic of genocide. Settler states cannot exist without the prior elimination of indigenous life and land to secure a claim to legitimacy. Tucking Yang. And 12. The settler nation of worker required to liberation of the life, land, settlement, land, social capital, assumption of additional relation to land, represents epicenter, watchological laws, restart each population, settler is a structure non-event, and also forced labor shall seeks to become the poverty, decolonization, metaphors, people to contradict decolonized because the term decolonization is about to fail by attract liberation, decolonization, must involve the repatriation of land. The 1EC's pursuit of the ideal American military strategy to protect alliances and countries across the world is the smokescreen for settler imperialism that can only cure itself through the fungibility of native flesh, saying in 19, the U.S. globalism imperialism and essentially settler freedom, charting lands for research, dispatch, to defend the free world settler, bonds in the name of freedom, yielded, carceral series, settler, privacy, real liberal citizens, business, supporting subject, by democratic claims the nation, the latter has disappearing slave for elimination, bound by fear, status, and fungible consequences with fears the native, feeling race, the Muslim native, the elimination is condition of freedom, think of democratic self-rule expansive, and of course, will over alien subject to deprivation, fetal, this happens, a final plan, the challenges about doing settler at the extent of every higher, freedom must be built upon elimination. Alliances are not neutral, but formed through the whitewashing of imperial empire in favor of disciplining the non-West. This logic is baked into every part of the 1EC. Murray in 20 empires network rather than nations. The independence was gifted by West Friends, bad for liberal studies, other considered Russia, China, NATO, or ASEAN. Harker set the imperial nation, which contains Western South, exception contains wants to still the universal with an always granted tolerance as long as it adhere to discipline. Every facet of Iran foreign policy is indebted to settler colonialism. The as foundational assumptions are complicit in the destruction of native life and governance. King 17 in IRG's philosophies in marginalizing counter-as domestic foreign policy crafted around what constitutes legitimate policy in the international where states compete against each other. What about communities that now resemble state arc has the people of surrounding states that have lands and for close the resurgent communities. The logic of elimination makes extinction inevitable. Only the alternative souls by restoring indigenous governance would sustain life over millennia. Mitchell 17 settler colonialism and extractive entities convert extinction to the dissolution of social bonds and also indigenous laws and that create that sustain worlds over millennia interferes with practice secure for the land necessary for the survival of life forms. The responsibility extinction that leaves social bonds and have many steps to destruction of extinction also decolonization transfer land and power back to indigenous people. Thus the only alternative is decolonization that requires an abolition of settler nation states and an unwavering commitment to indigenous sovereignty, futurity, tugging, and 12 and ethical incompatibility, sense of conscious reconciliation, which motivates the limits of reconciliation back to settler, almost asking settler future, consider questions of what will decolonization look like, what will be the consequences for settler and consolidate, and not just questions and not be integrated colonization to exist as primary decolonization, not of states and not capitalist settlers, or settler future decolonization, capital to indigenous sovereignty, future, it'll go find the answers as we get their decolonization on indigenous and also the role of the ballot is to embody black and native feminist refusal. You should be skeptical of their defense of settler futurity, which can only ever perpetuate a world ruled by white, patriarchal, and racist metaphysics. King 17 native feminist refusal, black feminist skepticism, and forward distrust and eminence towards overrepresentations, community about ask, not the apprentice, community of massive humanist public theory within terms of debate, they not play by the rules of particular manner which black and native feminists push back and follow support the reading of black community distrustful of traditional tropes about thinking what's normal limitation of Western liberal thought is that it cannot see all of general practice making Western doctrine back upon self and settler colonial knowledge. What this does request the anterior assumptions that I suppose is particulars of the meta narrative. Our interpretation is that the judge ought to evaluate the office research product. They don't get away the material implication of the case. 1. Plan focus. Resist to a debate to a 10-second statement, leaving the rest of the unquestioned. Hold them responsible for how the knowledge is constructed and used because that produces the best model for activism and ethics. 2. The case of prior question informs the value of the game. If we win that debate, train students to be violent outside of the rounds, that comes first. 3. Performance. You're an educator responsible for judging the behavior and scholarly production of the app. That means you should drop them if we win a link because it proves their investments were unethical. 4. Debate is outside of scholarship production, not policy making one-on-one, even if individual bias do not change your subjectivities. Iterative investments in research models influence our political orientations, rejecting paradigms, premise on soloism and pedagogical spaces, acts as a starting point for decolonization. 5. Vote negative presumption. Fiat is elusive. The app does nothing. Voting app will produce the advantages discussed, but arguments college how we view policies and debates. 6. The ability of procedural fairness and clashness always states cause internalization. Genocide. Stanley 21. Acknowledging genocide sufficient solid showed. And the alternatives internalism on non-native communities, the internal colonialism, self-imposed procedures that uphold the ensure self-future to sound ideals are better than policies in every space. Indigenous people are pressure to go forward to sell culture in order to gain legitimacy of civilized state or sell across the position. Peoples in the past possess sell corners or to perpetuate framing the 1 double bind. Either the press or true station is not in which case they can't solve anything since the act does not pass or they're not, and you vote negative presumption. 2. Futurity. DA settler society requires the elimination and genocide of native women to career itself, which means that their extinction outweighs arguments only recognize native death. When framing the concept of the death of white settlers, the world the act tries to save is not one worth saving. Zanati is wrong. If we're not told you it's unethical to use the government as a heuristic, the case Krauss makes it clear they don't remove presence, they merely redistribute it within West Asia, shifted to East Asia. That makes every act impact inevitable by exacerbating the same tensions with adversaries and causing backlash, but in a different theater, and proves that the gate controls the root cause will cite lines from the one to prove our links. 1. Want to see Joyce and Blankenship called to quote deepen ties with partners and build a large stand coalition, and how quote U.S. force posture is better served by fewer physically hardened facilities rather than concentration, which proves that the purpose of the app is to enhance American force posture and military authority. 2. Want to see McBrien says the status quo quote risk making allies complacent, content to free ride off the United States, which shows that the blame U.S. allies for free riding off U.S. support. 3. The fear of Iran and Russia to justify expanded American deterrence. Settler colonialism normalized the doctrines of white superiority, which are the root cause of global militarism and enlist conflict and racial bonds across the globe. Their investment in a U.S.-led order turns the case last stroke. In 15, modern development make evident the need to delink for coloniality relations by the law that facilitates that colonial recognize the right to have a history of colonization, normal bonds of war, exploitation, race, relations with racial narratives, rooted in white superiority, manifestation, Western policy, hold anything outside the match of the Western modernity as aside humanity. Settler colonialism is considered geopolitics at global level. The U.S. serves as the foundational architect for global bonds, which takes the alternative of prior question. Cornelia Griffiths. 16, SCS Mercy attempt to think the global considered relation to question of settlement, settler colonialism, question considered geopolitics at global level, force suppressing colonization, capitalism, governance. If settler colonialism is not the U.S. power, international settler colonialism is considered the global nation state founded on settler colonialism, considered first nation state, global reach of its imperial biological nation, American its imperial sense of looking the world, the more the maturity and liberalism of settler state rhetorically suggests more hit indulges the repression of an indigenous existence. The logic of saving allies is linked. The desire to protect Israel while it's currently genociding Palestinians proves how only our analysis of settlerism can analyze the relations between settlers and nations in an ethical way. The plan cannot solve Israeli aggression. When you see Latin says the cause is structural, they view Iran as an existential threat to their survival. Conflict escalates because Israel has nukes. Robinson evidence gives a list of all causes to Iranian prolif sanctions, rhetoric, Israel assassinations. Even if Iran is defensive realist, the app does not solve. Instead, its prolif inserted it in green. They also cannot solve Middle Eastern war. Latin Hall says that Israel is not constrained by the U.S. and its increasing military attacks despite Biden's opposition. So reducing presence obviously does not solve. That was the entirety of crossings inserted below. Ignore the blend the budget porter index. A, all their impact cards equally to the culture of militarism. B is their burden to read specific index of our defense. The overstretch near Afghanistan empirically proves that withdrawal increases the risk of backlash because it makes U.S. presence look counterproductive, which decreases support for redeploying troops elsewhere. Nothing in the app makes a reverse causal claim that troops will be repositioned against China or Russia in Taiwan. Even if the U.S. is overstretched now, the burden is on them to win that troops would move. The Decolonial evidence does not say U.S. presence in the Middle East is unsustainable. This is there's a perception that the U.S. would withdraw, but then proceeds to refute that perception because, especially if we win the claim, that proves that the U.S. has an incentive to stay in the Middle East even post-plan, which means that they would use the possibility to surge to circumvent it. Now, private contractors are not U.S. forces. The plan cannot solve them. We mean all state private employees would deploy with U.S. forces. Private multi-resting operating communications state companies have doing business. Our contractors and civil enclosed not belong to U.S. military, but vigilant private contractors are to no one. We're outside the chain of command. That exacerbates every impact they've listed. They shift. Mazzetti 14. The CIA remains in charge after troops out. The CIA is running pro archery and train rebels. Someone want to get CIA out of the Columbus, but that's not happening anytime soon. Turns the case terse into all the face of American warfighters. Once again, changing funds enough influence the military station, flying intelligence use of drone aircraft launches, cyber tests, and drone operations with civilian agencies. Learners, organizational virtual warfighting, which dominant Pentagon refused to force with the CIA, the state, and the D. The very notion of war zones have become model bomber and the blurry missions of the CIA and the Pentagon war making, setting up deep into the shadows.
Cool. Ready for Krauss?
Yeah.
Can we all result in the app?
No.
Cool, so it's not a pick?
No.
Do you fiat it?
We've criticized the logic of fiat. We think that epistemic orientations and discourse come first.
Okay, what does your discourse in this round do?
It refuses the ass racism.
What does that do for to materially help indigenous people?
Well, we think that orienting away from the state is the only ethical option. If we win that claim, you go net.
Yeah, but does that actually materially do anything to help indigenous people?
Well, in the same case as the AF, nothing we do in debate passes material plans. We have said the reading of the 1AC was unethical, forwarded a model of settler governance and futurity that genocides Native people. You should refuse that if we win that claim.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'm a little bit confused. Can you explain why anything you've read on case is a link to something other than the status quo?
It's arguments why the plan doesn't solve. We agree it's links to the SCO, the alt provides uniqueness.
Okay, so what does decolonization look like?
Abolition of settler nation states.
But you don't feel that nation states cease to exist? Because you just said
what does that mean?
you just said you critique fiat. So then what do you do? So you, but like, what do you do? What
we
is
think
like?
that this
What is all
round
this?
is
What
about
is?
epistemic orientations. We think that the
What does
alternative
reading
is an
this
epistemic
affirmative-
orientation towards decol.
Okay, but what does reading this affirmative in this round do to make the United States
The
federal
affirmative?
government
I don't know.
disappear?
It doesn't do anything. We
No,
agree.
the negative. Sorry.
Again, the AF was racist. You should refuse that in favor of decolonization. Decolonization is both material and epistemic. We think that in terms of debate, we should refuse settler futurity and ideology because A, we've made arguments as to why that gets internalized to justify native genocide outside of debate, and two, we've said that it is the only ethical option if we win our
Okay.
claims of ontology.
Alright, so it relies on you winning ontology. That makes sense.
We will.
Can you explain why imperialism is the same thing as settler colonialism?
They're not.
Okay, so then what's the connection between settler, you just said settler colonialism exported globally.
Yeah. Tuck and Yang say that there's a difference between external and internal colonialism in the sense that colonialism can be exported outside in the form of interventions in other areas like Iraq, Syria, etc. But settler colonialism is a distinct phenomenon that involves both internal colonialism, i.e. the assimilation of indigenous people, the elimination of their cultures, boarding schools, etc., in addition to external colonialism.
So,
Our
okay,
argument is
yeah.
that settler colonialism is the foundation of both of those things. So the only reason we
Okay,
intervene
so I
is
know.
because the settler state exists.
Okay, can you explain to me why settler colonialism is the root cause of like intervention in Rwanda specifically?
Because the U.S. seeks to expand its settler legitimacy and authority abroad.
Okay, so I'm just confused then, because then it seems to be saying that imperialism is an outgrowth of settler colonialism.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so so then how can settler colonialism explain our relationship with like Iran? We haven't
The
tried
reason-
to
the
like
US
settle them.
Yeah, that's our argument. Settler colonialism is not solely settlement. It involves other things like intervention in other areas, which is the first thing I said. There's multiple
Okay,
facets of settler
where have you read
colonialism.
it?
Interventions
where
in
does
Iraq is one.
I think what's your alt card?
Tuck and Yang. What do you mean?
Where does Tuck and Yang say that it's possible to get rid of the state through an ethic of incommensurability?
An ethic of incommensurability requires a rejection of settler futurity. Tuck and Yang say that any decolonial politics requires one.
Oh, I know, but where does it say that that will actually get rid of the state?
That's like what decolonization means. It's an abolition of the nation state.
Okay. I'll take running prep starting now. Status of the K.
Unconditional.
Cool. should have 202 left. I'll send out the dog. Order is case, top down, then pen. It should be sent, by the way. Let me know when y'all are good.
When you say top down, does that mean framing or advantage first?
Oh, framing first. But the framing that was put on case, not like weight case stuff. It's going great. Cool. Everyone good? Okay, awesome. We're all here. Launch. Current water presence speaks escalatory security dilemmas, increased path dependencies, all contested regional war, overturned guarantees great power couple Western China that kills cooperation, makes a laundry list of external threats like nuclear war and climate change, inevitable on the top level framing arguments that conceded every single one of our specific affirmative scenarios, which means you should heavily affirmative on framework proper, no extinction outweighs its irreversible, it's infinite magnitude, constitutes mass genocide, and certain that no indigenous person values their life is paternalistic and patently false. That was our Patterson 03 guard, which goes straight up dropped our having both the structural violence impact and big six scenarios proves that there doesn't have to be a trade-off there on their Mitchell card. No, you should prefer the specificity of our scenarios or the genericness of their indices. They're just saying that in general the logic that the extinction scenarios that are used to justify it aren't true, but in our scenario it is true because it's been proven by the specificity or evidence on the double bind stuff. No, I'll answer fiat here. It's good and necessary. Cooper 2020. What values are in research activities of radical proposals were on the table? Marlborough reform taking a proposal on the table. Acting of superware and intervention of the present rather than the future. Insights attention to remain focused on the merits rather than challenging realization. Stimulating your character needs to be explicit without suggesting it's only politics. With pursuing free future remains important when transversing matter free institutions innovates prefer experimental politics. Cut the counter politics on the future. It is subtle. Just proof ontology which answers on their case. One is that we only free up troops, not redeploying them to South China Sea. It just means that we have strategic leverage so we can move and so we're not seen as overly aggressive, but we know that they'll know we'll be able to respond in types of crisis. Second, these are all links to the status quo. Current presence is bad, which we both agree with. I'll talk to do the three is that we don't fear Iran. We say that they're irrational and they're responding rationally to U.S. aggression on great power war stuff. One is no root cause playing. The genie's already out the broad, also frame solvency with approximating cast, which means causes a case outweighs on time frame. Second, it never says great power war. There's no mention of Russia or China anywhere in here. The logic of saving allies stuff is super stupid. The whole point is that we should stop giving them the bombs to bomb Palestinians. Robinson Card doesn't give all causes. That was our first ever card. It says the only reason that they would want to do it is because of U.S. aggression, which we saw. The Latin Hall card says that the U.S. is not. We make it so they Israel doesn't feel like it can go out and be aggressive because they know that they won't have us behind them. The miscalc stuff is super bad. They haven't read. It's a link term which proves that the plan is good. The overstretch stuff is also very bad. Afghanistan was just one instance. It's not a complete withdrawal like the affirmative. We do make a root cause claim. The Kali card does say it's unsustainable. It's not the Kali card. It's the Kupchin card that says it's unsustainable. No PMC fill-in. One is that non-unique. That was our own evidence. Second is contractors are presence. They got fiat some away. Don't know six. Contractors are part of our military presence. Second. One, the role balance driven side of belief plan and self-serving arbitrary race when I see ensure we can't catch up, self-finding infinite unpredictable interest, restoring fairness and class by the applicants competitive all days, catharsis is that there's no argument for about all means going for fearless material pressures in place. B is reps first and non-offensive for planets that got idea then the reps advocating a viable. C is inclusion of diverse argumentative forms requires institutional mechanisms of facility dialogue. That's the topic, Vermin 2013. We create space for productive interaction by developing procedural mechanisms, institutional practice that aim to manage without eliminating pluralism, such mechanisms in media conflict, bodies, reconciling community norms, all the people, and we may never reach agreement on everything. My allies acquiesce to procedural mechanisms that take place seriously process for managing pluralism, procedure for certain spaces of opportunity for contestation, contestation, and second is no root cause blame. That was about three special goals. Other departments and under children language never have stopped clerks like they also failed political lines with the state or keeper effective anti-colonial protests was answers on ontology or nice cut 2016. Indigenous people were constituent politics court to international agreement and large sovereignty long-standing alliances with players of politics Turkey needed people work with officials who advance even to act with charges on mining calls government for explaining secrets and in Arizona politicians are humble when they change policies speaking to not settle for symbolic victories domains undermined imperial nation state. Fourth link turn A the what is the critique of U.S. bases a prerequisite to the all deterrence they can on the reps and plan focus level is R2020. Movement against U.S. bases crucial against U.S. dominance international law doesn't be like Frankenstein bunch of war and ethos terror ethos the whole world is considered U.S. battlefield making the foundation of the bloody empire global bases been up on the vast large and untold displacement if environmental destruction loss of sovereignty cut the card of sovereignty and B is not only a rep challenges culture xenophobia militarism in the Middle East racism fear mongering in the home front that's vital and important waiting cage debating policies key to changing military to compel technology skip the next stuff and 5s are all or nothing framework reifies the power of set to close their shuts down all solvency, which means that the alt can't solve and the framework enters bad. Budget 2018. The structural paradigm closes down the social political transformation to which decolonization aspires for agency where only solutions equal renders all possible there. Ontological system with inherently dies the desire to elimination native only ever pushed back. It does not offer the hope of a liberated future. Ontology reads the contingency and agencies put down politics to totalizing logic not only disallows power problems and strategic alliance becomes resistant. That's why it the scholarly email line structure only from a state of physics of opposition, not decolonization.
I'll start that. Okay, it's the K, then framing them.
Any cards? I'm good.
Shift framing or advantage?
Framing.
Oh no. No, she's not. Think away. Where's your shirt from?
Target.
Solid.
Yeah.
The horse is cool. How are you gonna? Oh no, I meant the trophy, not your shirt.
Oh yeah. Mine got broken. Yeah.
Oh, that's not yours?
No, this is the quarter strip.
Oh, I can't read that far.
Yeah. Yeah, my horse broke off the action trophy, so it's tough.
Already?
Yeah.
It's been like an hour.
Yeah, Nate tried to pick it up then.
When's Harker over for school?
Early May, like 2 weeks in May.
Early May?
Yeah, like
Whoa.
May 10th.
Wow. I thought Marlborough might be the earliest of anybody I know. But
When-
never
when is
mind.
Marlborough?
Take it back.
All right. You don't know. Okay. I'm gonna forget everything.
Does anyone have Navia's contact?
Yeah, I'll talk so.
Sign may have requested that Nadia receive a phone call.
good.
Order.
K, framing, case.
You mean the framing page on the
Yeah.
case?
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
They have dropped the theory of ontology. Cellular clones operates not solely through the theft of land, but through the ideological naturalization of cellular futures, which carry themselves through the elimination of native women who must be murdered and have their souls shall extracted from them because they signify the possibility of native futures. You should understand every app argument about framework case always and link turns as investments into linear cellular futurity created around the projection of American power domestically and abroad through distributed basing. That logic is not neutral, but seeks to extend a cellular claim to legitimacy and futurity, which requires the genocide and extinction of native people. That impact outweighs the app. They have dropped our extinction impact. Cellular colonialism requires the view of land as an object to use or possess in favor of cellular interests, which is the foundation of industrialization, endless climate change, ecological destruction, and extinction. Dropped one and C. Mitchell. No game on it in the 1 year. Absent decolonization, humanity will cease to exist because cellular colonialism is unsustainable. That means framework is relevant. We have an extinction impact, so the 2 hour case always is not viable. The role of the ballot, hold them to the text of their interp. They said weigh the plan, which is that any critiques of representational discourse are not allowed under their interpretation. Our current interpretation is that you should evaluate the 1 as an object of research. That means we get links to their justifications prior to evaluating the consequences of the plan. The catharsis DA, they've dropped our performance DA. The only judge instruction in this debate was from the 1 C. You are educators, not policymakers. Your ballot does not resolve presence in WANA, but can rectify racist logic within debate. That actively gets influenced in the context of the plan. They have dropped our serial policy failure DA. The way that they justify the plan gets internalized in the minds of debaters, and in the way that the plan manifests in the real world, which is that every link we went to the discourse comes on a higher level. The catharsis DA is also pathologizing. They've dropped the first and second arguments in the 1 C. The discourse affects the consequence of the plan because the way they understand posture gets internalized. The next argument about plan being equal to the representations is wrong. Fiat is illusory was also dropped. The only impact your ballot has is rectifying ethical injustice. The next argument about inclusion, this card's idea of quote institutional mechanisms is unethical. It is a decision rule. We have said that nothing else spills out of this round, and the only effect that we have are the way that we justify the plan, which means that comes at a higher level. Now they say no root cause. They have dropped the warrant. No root cause is not a complete argument. Saying that we should prefer proximate has not responded to our thesis claim. Our evidence is that the desire to exert cellular authority abroad is foundational of all violence. The 1 C live strip evidence says that non-Western states are viewed as outside of the category of the human to justify intervention from the West. This is the logic of cellular intervention empirically in Iraq, Syria, etc. The U.S. seeks to extend its claim to cellular legitimacy because they fear the existential threat to cellular futurity. That is our argument. The desire for cellular futurity is the reason why states intervene in order to protect that cellular future, in order to protect their own existence. They have also dropped the Cornelian Griffiths evidence. The U.S. serves as the foundational architect of violence. All violence comes back to the U.S. as its existence as a cellular state. Other cellular states seek to emulate the United States in their foundation, which means that is the foundation of violence with China, Russia, etc. But also non-Western states seek to expand themselves into a U.S. Western order, which is why all of their links to alliances, etc. still apply. All of our links still apply to that. Now the link turn, you should not view these link turns in a vacuum. They're assuming that they didn't just read an app entirely about American posture and how we need to make American military more flexible and able to deter adversaries. This is our link argument. They have dropped our Sing evidence. The logic of preserving American flexibility, deterrence, defense, etc. is all wedded to an American culture of imperialism that seeks to preserve American posture. They have dropped every single line that we have read from 1 C evidence, which says that this is inseparable from the way that they justify the plan. Even if the plan might reduce bases, the alternative does that too. Decolonization requires an abolition of the United Nation state, which requires an abolition of the military-industrial complex. Our argument is that the logic of the 1 C, the way that they have justified that reduction, the way that the reduction manifests, the way that happens through the state, and the way that would fail is only resolved by the alternative, which means that none of these are offense for them because we agree bases aren't pure, but the only way to solve that is by rejecting cellular futurity in the first place. The xenophobia argument, they didn't read this card in the 1 C. This is also not an argument because even if the culture of xenophobia is bad, that's not the same as natives or about how they prevent genocide. The busway. Now, I'll answer the noise cat arguments here. One, this is about indigenous activism. It's not the same as the app. Even if they win that indigenous activism might be good in other instances, the app is certainly not the opposite of this because every link we win proves that the app seeks to extend a claim to cellular military posture. Second, our argument is not that indigenous activism is bad, but that the way that the app understands what is legitimate indigenous activism, etc., gets manifested into arguments. If we win our thesis of ontology, then the cellular state can only exist through the elimination of native people, which is a claim that they have not contested because Noisecat just assumes that political activism can be good. Our argument is that the only reason that indigenous people engage with the state is because there's no other, because they see that there is no other alternative, which is exactly why their framing of decolonization is an impossibility, is exactly what forecloses its possibility in the first place, because it constantly defers the possibility of engaging with indigenous governance and life independently. This also applies to the Busbridge evidence. All of these just say fatalism is bad. The alternative is not fatalism. It is a material, real project of decolonization that returns indigenous land and sovereignty to native people. They did not make a DA to decol. They did not say it doesn't solve the case, which is that all of this will be new in the 2 era, and they dropped we have an extinction impasse, so they can't even go for extinction waste, which also was not an argument in the 1 era. Now, the framing debate, they functionally dropped the warrant in our futurity DA. If we win ontology, the cellular state can only exist through the genocide and extinction of native people. Our argument is that in order for the cellular state to colonize land and to exist, it must eliminate the prior inhabitants of that land. That means in order for the state to exist and to rescue a claim to cellular futurity, it must eliminate eliminate native women because they signify the possibility of native futures. That means that they only recognize extinction when framed in the context of white settlers, because our argument is that settler futurity makes extinction of natives inevitable, which is why you should not evaluate any of the arguments in a vacuum, and you should prioritize indigenous death in your ballot, because that is an active epistemic bias. The next argument about how Patterson was dropped, it is not dropped. They have dropped that the genocide requires unending structural violence, etc., which turns the entire case. We also have an extinction device, so I'm not sure why this is relevant. Mitchell, we didn't read it. The double bind about why fiat is good. One, this does not assume any of the app, even if fiat is good in a vacuum. The way that they justify the plan certainly must be held prior to its consequences. Two, this assumes that they have answered every other argument that we made. They have not. They have dropped that in the context of a debate round specifically. Nothing we advocate for spills over, which means that fiating or imagining the policy does not cause it to pass, which means that the only thing that your ballot can do is ethically rectify it. Now, the case, they do not solve anything. They do not solve anything. PMC zeroes the case. Their response was the one-line card saying that PMCs are not presence. That is not a warrant. They have dropped the Lehman evidence says the presence is distinct from private military contractors. Presence are owned by the United States military. PMCs are hired and then go and do their own thing. That is not the same thing. That ruins all negative ground in DAs, which means that we can't generate links. PMCs zeroes the case. It means that the U.S. would continue to be overstretched because we would continue funding presence in the Middle East, which means that we would not be able to deter China, Russia, etc. It also means that Iranian aggression and backlash is inevitable because the U.S. would still be viewed as having a presence, even though it's not from the military. This was not a response. They did not actually respond to the 3 cards we had on PMC's shift. They've also dropped that PMCs have an incentive to escalate to preserve demand. They have dropped that call causes extinction. I do not care if they win framework. You are not ending my career when they have dropped a root cause argument. That means that the alternative solves the entirety of the case and a risk of a link is sufficient to turn it.
Cool. I have 202 left. Starting now. Order is case, advantage, framing, then the K.
Is the order on just the advantage first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, sorry, it's framing then advantage. Everyone good? Current water presence speeds escalating security dilemmas and creates passive enemies locked to to regional war. Overstretch guarantees great power conflict with Western China that kills cooperation, makes a laundry list of exercises like nuclear war and climate change inevitable. I'm not going for extinction outweighs per se, but I am going for it as a tiebreaker, which means if you think that it's a wash on the link level or both winning risk of link turn, you should use extinction as a way to break the tie. They have not responded to our time frame argument on the root cause debate that even if they're right, this U.S. settler colonialism is the root cause of all this violence, or is why we're trying, or why Russia and China are trying to emulate us, that it's already out of the bottle. Nobody will believe since the U.S. has been settler colonial for so long that we're actually going to be decolonizing completely, or that we've actually gone back on total totality of our ways, or at least very much the is all the power has been already done. They're already trying to emulate us and trying to create their own settler empires, which means that the app is the only thing that can solve in time frame because their alt can't solve. PMC stuff. One, they dropped two answers here. First is that it's non-unique. All of their evidence proves that PMCs are the status quo. You can go back and read it. Second is that you should refer our Dino 6 card, which proves that we failed a way to go contractors because only our card defines what military presence is. No one NC card has mentioned the word military presence. Contractors provide a vital part of our military presence. Three is at the very least this doesn't zero the risk of the case, but just decreases it. Not terminal defense. Framework only K. On framework, I'm extending that the role of the balance determines desirability of the plan. Anything I've conceded on my clash warrants and anything else is self-serving and arbitrary way to waste money. See, ensure we can't just stop justifying infinite output of interest in destroying fairness and clash. All their answers to this were super bad if we are, because all of their it turns all of their impact, which is all about getting the best sort of decolonial education, but we're not able to leverage the 1AC, which is our best piece of offense, and it's impossible for us to engage in the sort of decolonial education they think is possible. Their first answer to this is that any critiques of reps is not allowed according to our interp. I disagree with them. That is not what our interp says. It just says you have to weigh it against a competitive alternative. That means that you can weigh the links against the link turns, which solves all of their offense because it means that we get the sort of critiques of our representation that they think is important, all of their answers, which solves all of their arguments about performance being about the performance stuff, which means I'll have to answer the fiat stuff. Too bad they dropped all the warrants in Cooper. Fiating the app is an act of radical prefiguration that undermines hegemonic notions of the possible and lays out a blueprint for a transformed future. Demanding the plan now revitalize movements by underlining the urgent need for change. Their only answer to this is that fiat is illusory, but if their subject formation arguments are right, then the things that we do in this round can influence the way we think about it. So fiat is a valuable way for thinking about change and it can't actually do anything, which means that you don't need to win framework. Fiat is why reps are good. Weigh the case to tap into the revolutionary potential of radical prefiguration. Ontology debate. They massively mishandled the noise cat card, which answered the ontology, and I flagged it as such during the 1AR. It gives specific examples of the state doing things like not choosing to expand in order to prioritize indigenous sacred sites, such as the Seiko Flag Act, and other specific examples of the state not being ontologically bad or Settler colonial, which proves that it does not expand at all costs. Our first answer is that indigenous activism is not the app, but that's why I'm extending the Lazare 2020 card, which clearly proves that indigenous activism is the affirmative. We both agree that military bases are bad for indigenous people because it takes land that was otherwise used and is otherwise used for indigenous sacred sites and creates a world that is a U.S. battlefield, which clearly proves that we are good for indigenous people. Third is that it's not. Third is that you don't let them go for a floating pig when they said they don't feel the plan, which means they can't solve any of case. Good debate.